In this video, I'm going to show you 2 different ways to center your clay on the pottery wheel and some of the common problems that people have when starting out. This is a complete beginner's guide to centering on the wheel. Timestamps will be in the description below, but don't skip the prep. The first thing you need to do when centering is make sure that you have really soft clay. The softer the clay, the easier it will be to center. The next thing you need to do is make sure that your clay is wedged and rolled into a ball. If you haven't seen the video on how to prep and wedge your clay for the pottery wheel, I strongly recommend doing that. It'll be linked in the description below and on the card at the end of the video. If you have already seen that, or you already know how to wedge, then let's get started. One of the main aspects of throwing is making yourself immovable. The clay really only does whatever you do. One of the key aspects of this is seat placement and posture. Your seat should be level or about level with the wheel head. If it's too low, then you won't get the leverage that you need to push on the clay. So if you're having a really hard time with this, then maybe you need to lift your seat up a little bit. Next is posture. You want to make sure that your body is pretty much as close to the wheel as possible, so that when you're in a resting position with your elbow on your hip, your hand is over the middle of the wheel. This position allows you to use your weight, not just your muscle, to provide stability and force. This is what this should look like from the top view. Almost every method of centering can be broken down into 2 parts: inward pressure and downward pressure. You can think of this kind of like you're trying to fit the clay into a mold made by your hands. Okay, so here we go. Throw the clay into the middle of the wheel and get it wet. You're going to need a lot of water to keep your hand from getting friction burn. First, anchor your left elbow into your hip and create an imaginary line through the middle of your forearm to the middle of your palm to the center of the clay. Using your weight, lean in as if trying to balance your weight on this arm or as if trying to push the clay away with this arm. Don't use your fingers, as this will put too much strain on your wrist, and don't press from the side, as doing so will cause you to lose all the power and stability that comes with the weight of your body. Slowly apply more force and pressure until the clay begins to move upward and you no longer feel any wobbles on the side. Use your weight to make sure this hand doesn't move. Now we need to apply downward pressure while maintaining inward pressure. Anchor your elbow onto your thigh so that it doesn't move. Then, using your palm or fist, press down on top while continuing to use your weight to apply inward pressure. Remember, you're forcing the clay into a space, much like you would a mold. Do this until the clay feels still under your hands. You may need to repeat the process several times before the clay feels centered. A common mistake that I see lots of people make is that they raise one or both elbows, and this causes your back to have to stabilize your body. And while at some point you're going to have to learn to throw with your elbows in the air, it's easier to learn when you're not shaking and getting thrown around. Another common method of centering is called coning. To cone your clay, use your weight to press in with your left hand, just like you did before. Then, put your right hand directly across from your left hand, and using your arms and back, pull and push at the same time. This will cause the clay to rise up. While the clay is rising up, pull both hands together to create a cone shape, hence the name. Press the clay back down by repeating the process of pressing the clay down and in at the same time. You may need to do this several times. People often compare this to wedging on the wheel because it aligns the particles so well for throwing. I like to use the coning method when I have larger amounts of clay because it provides me a lot more force and pressure to push on that larger amount of clay. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful in teaching you how to center and working out some of the common problems that comes when you're starting out. If you haven't seen the video on how to wedge, you should check that out. It'll be linked here. And make sure that you like and subscribe to stay tuned for the next video on how to pull. The more you practice, the better you get. So keep at it, never stop growing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.